Welcome to the Recruiting Stories podcast, where we celebrate recruiting by exploring the stories of leaders and top performers by digging into their stories and understanding how recruiting has impacted their journey and their success. Welcome to another edition of the Recruiting Stories podcast. I'm really excited about this one. We've got Jared Flinn, the operating partner of bulkloads.com. Jared is a great guy, great human being, also very successful entrepreneur in the transportation space. And I think it'll be an insightful listen for everybody as you listen and as we really explore kind of recruiting and its impact on people's lives. I want you to listen to a few things when you listen to Jared's his story. So listen for really what motivates him, and listen for the catalysts that helped him make decisions or make changes, and then the motivators behind that. As you listen to that, that'll help you in your journey as someone who's kind of traveling through your career. At the same time, could be really helpful for you as someone who actually does recruit. As I, go after people who are game changers, who are high performers. What are the things that ultimately make those people move? How do I really position myself and my organization in such a way that would say, hey, they should come alongside me. We can work together and we can help you achieve great things here, but also will help you achieve your long-term purpose in life. So anyways, hope that you get some of that out of this. This is a conversation again with Jared Flinn. Let me know if you have any questions after the show. Hey, this is Adrian Chapman with the Recruiting Stories podcast, powered by Cover 3 Consulting. Today, I'm really excited. We have Jared Flinn. He is the operating partner of bulkloads.com and also Smart Freight Funding. Welcome, Jared.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So excited to talk with you. Obviously, a successful guy in the industry and a local guy, too. I know we had kind of talked a little bit about offline. We actually get to do this in person, and that's really cool rather than over Zoom these days, which is unique.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, cool. So you're originally from St. Louis area, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up west of St. Louis. I always say Troy is where I went to high school, and people always say, you're from the St. Louis area when you tell everybody what high school you went to.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, Troy, Missouri is where I went to high school. Grew up on a farm a little bit west of there in Truxton, which is... And I think population maybe 79 has probably gone down from there. But yeah, grew up on a 240 acre farm.
2-horse town is what they say.
It is, yeah. If you blink, you'll miss it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I know you are a Mizzou guy.
Yes.
You were an ag major, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if you don't mind, tell everybody listening, because most of who we work with or who's going to be listening is going to be in the logistics and transportation industry, brokers, carriers, things like that. How did a guy who's, ag major end up going into transportation, running a load board? Give us just kind of a brief background of how you ended up there.
Yeah, I don't know if it can be a brief background, okay. But I'll give it my best. So yeah, graduated from Mizzou in 2002 with an ag education degree and didn't know what I wanted to do with that. But again, grew up on a farm. Through college, I had worked for several different companies. One company, it was a construction company where I actually had to get my CDL and drove a truck for them. So learned a little bit about transportation there. After I graduated, still uncertain with what I wanted to do, and ended up getting on with another construction supply company delivering materials and used my Class A CDL. So really got to learn more about the operations of trucking with that. And fast forward just a little bit, I met my girlfriend at the time. She was living in Kansas City. I was still in Columbia, and I knew that I knew I wanted to move up there to Kansas City. And she told me, and this was back in the mid 2004, 2005, and she convinced me. She said, "Why don't you put your resume online and see what happens?" And I'm like, man, there's millions of people that do that. How is mine going to get picked up?
Were you on like Monster?
Career Builder. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So anyways, I vividly remember I put it out on a Wednesday evening, and I think it was like 2 days later, I get a call from a recruiter with Bartlett Grain Company named Andy Traub. And he said, he goes, man, I did a search for trucking and agriculture and your name came up. I was like, yeah. And we got to talking, and he asked if I'd be interested in coming to interview with them. And I was like, well, what I've never heard of Bartlett at that time. Yeah. And even in the grain industry, they've always been more of a private company. So a lot of people don't know about what they do. And anyways, small town farm kid.
Kansas City.
They were in Kansas City. Yep. And going to the big city. Yeah. And I remember wore my suit and went up there. And at that time they were at the Board of Trade building. And I remember going up the elevator, walking in, big plush office, everybody in a shirt and tie. And I was just like, almost, I don't know, sticker shocked.
Did you wear boots or did you wear?
No, I had on dress shoes, cleaned up. But interviewed. They'd actually had a panel of different merchandisers that I interviewed with, and went really well. And it was the next week they offered me the gig, and so I went ahead and did that. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up doing trucking for agriculture. But I had a great run with them. They actually hired me to be behind the wheat desk originally to help move truck freight, hauling wheat kind of. And that was there's different plays that they did with trucking, but they did a lot of long haul truck grain from kind of eastern Colorado and Kansas to their terminals in Kansas City. So I get to be a huge part of that.
Very cool. So let's dig back into that just a little bit. So
sure.
So from there, you ended up then starting your own business.
Well, yeah. So I was at Bartlett from 2005 until 2011, and again had a great run there. Man, learned so much about the grain industry, and really that's how I got to know really kind of the logistics of grain. But I always just saw that there was a need. Well, two things. I always had a drive just to do more, and always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. But I just saw a need that with technology out there that you could utilize technology more to enhance the trucking and logistics, and that's kind of where in 2011 my partner Matt, he actually originally started the website. And talked to him and just saw that there was just a need that we could create a platform to actually connect shippers, brokers, and carriers in the ag trucking space.
That's awesome. So we'll get more into that. I want to hear more about bulk loads and what you've done there in a little bit. I want to go back to some of those I guess forks in the road and the catalysts behind what brought you down this path. So Andy Trum at one point he was part of that, and then also it sounds like getting into construction and getting your CDL was a part of that too. So who were those people, and how did that come about? I guess tell me about maybe those forks in the road where it was like, okay, I guess I'm going down this path. And kind of what made you say, you know what, I guess I'll go this way rather than that way?
Yeah, well, to speak just on the learning transportation, I'm again farm kid, always drove tractors, big trucks, and all that. So I think I just always had that knowledge, the operational piece. So I knew what it really took to move something from point A to point B. Right. And a lot of people, and I say this wholeheartedly, people don't really realize how their food gets on their table. Right. They just think you go to the grocery store and that's how the food, But I mean, there's a series of logistics that are involved to make that happen. So after I graduated, I had mentioned kind of being unsure about what I wanted to do, and actually found that job just on a whim. I think it was in the paper. But the only reason I say that, I got once I started doing that, delivering materials, I really saw that there was just a need there, and and I learned so much from that standpoint. Your second question was with Andy. I think I was looking for, kind of the next step. I knew I loved Columbia, had a great time there as a college student, but knew that I wanted to do something else and move forward. And again, my wife, she was at that time, she was living in Kansas City, and so Andy reached out, and he was a great person, and just really felt comfortable and trusted him with the opportunity to work for Bartlett.
Cool. Very good. And I assume that what he told you once you got there, it was similar or better than what you'd heard on the phone. And so you said, hey, there's a trust here, there's an opportunity here, and something made you say, yeah, this is where I want to be. that kind of set off a career, obviously, in the industry?
Yeah, I would say, Andy had a huge part of that. I mean, I trusted him with the job. I think for me, once I got started, and I've told so many people this, the second day I was on the job, the vice president of the company, we every day we had these 9:00 meetings, and kind of all the commodity managers, we all get in this we call it the fish bowl, but this glass conference room right in the center of the in the office space. But after one meeting, I introduced myself to him, and his name was Jack, and he come up to me, he goes, "Jared," he goes, "we're actually a transportation company that moves grain. We're not a grain company." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Just remember that we're a transportation company that moves grain." And I got to thinking about that. I was like, wait, I thought we're a grain company. Well, what he was saying, he goes, man, he was just enforcing that transportation just had a huge role in the grain space. So I always use that to kind of be the backbone of like, hey, if they're hiring me to do transportation, I'm going to look at this like, every aspect of it and figure out where these opportunities are. And it really kind of led to a lot of the success there, because I just realized that, man, some people valued at that time, not everyone, but a lot of people, if you were dealing with trucking specifically, it was kind of the low man on the totem pole. A lot of guys, they didn't want to deal with the owner operators and booking trucks. There's just stress level involved and all that. Well, I looked at it at a different approach. I said, man, this is where the opportunity lies. I mean, the more, and especially that, in the grain business, there's grain everywhere, but getting it moved efficiently, that's where the money's made. And getting it moved high volumes, obviously that's where the true money's made. Right. So I kind of use that as to say, hey, there's opportunity here. If I can go out and harness and find these trucks, figure out where this grain is, where we can move and maximize that potential, it's going to lead to more success for the company and the bottom line.
One of the things that you've said, Jared, here that I love, and it's people listening to this who are either you're thinking about planning your career, you're job searching, or you're saying, hey, how do I find and attract talent as well? You said the word opportunity like 20 times, and I love that. And I think when you look at successful people, they're constantly looking for opportunities. So certainly there are catalysts, right? Yep. There are people who helped you take forks in the road of your success and your journey. But I heard you say, hey, I found an opportunity to drive a truck. Right. I found an opportunity, to do construction, and there was opportunity behind that within the transportation space. And then you said, okay, well, there's opportunity with a transportation company that is that moves grain, right? And so you said, if that's the case, there's opportunity there within that space, and I'm going to be the one who's going to take responsibility for finding success there. And you said that multiple times. And I think that's so important is always finding the opportunity, whatever the circumstance is. And I think that's just crucial.
Yeah. Well, I guess you can say it's cliche or whatnot, but one thing, and I preach it to the people that I work with here in our organization, but kind of through the years, and I've been, I guess, in the workforce now 20 years or full-time years, but every job that I've had along the way, I truly have always looked to see where's the opportunity in this organization for me to put my feet down and make a name for myself. And more importantly, like any company I've been with, can I come into that company and leave it better than it was before? And with and I didn't even talk about this, and I know you got a couple other questions, sure, but with the construction company where I was delivering sheetrock, I did that for a couple of years. Well, they actually saw my talent, and I hope I'm not boasting about myself, but they moved me into the office. They said, hey, you have a lot more skills than just driving. Yeah. You do really well with sales. Yeah. Can you help us do sales? And it was interesting. They moved me in the office, and within 3 months, we were doing triple the sales that the business was. But again, I started looking to say, hey, why don't we can sell material here. We can narrow our margins, but do a lot more volume here. And for work that's not going to cost us that much more. It's going to be, I use the word incremental all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's where I just saw the opportunity. And the same deal when I was at Bartlett, I just saw that, man, there was just an opportunity to maximize the truck potential that was there. So it's just, I guess I always want to be the one, and we've talked about this before, from a sports standpoint. I'm competitive, and like, absolutely. I want to be out there and compete and have fun doing it.
And what you said, I think is important for especially leaders or managers or executives to hear too, is when that stage that you were in with the construction company, there are undoubtedly with nearly all the organizations that I work with, there are people who are maxed out at their capacity, and there are other people who haven't scratched the surface of their capacity. And so when you find people who are asking questions and bringing up ideas, oftentimes it's because they can do more. And so my suggestion is to explore that. So for you, you had the opportunity to say, hey, come over here and try this. Mm-hmm. Can you do this? And a lot of times I talk to thousands and thousands of people. People tell me that, like, honestly, like, I've been doing this, but I'm kind of bored. I know, is this it? Is this all that I have? And if that's a place to be, I always tell them, like, if you're completely happy where you are, like, ask for more, right? Mm-hmm. Ask for more. And if that doesn't solve your problem, right? Well, then yeah, maybe it'd be time to find a new place. But I tell leaders and executives, like, look for the people who are asking for more. If they're asking for more, make sure that they're doing well in what they're doing, but then say, yeah, let's try out something else, because that's where you may find someone who can do great things and beyond that. So
yeah, hands down.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So how long has Bulk Loads been in existence at this point?
Yeah, Bulk Loads, we are now on, it was in the spring of 2011. So we're almost on our 10 year going on now.
Congrats. Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah. It still feels fresh. So it's a fight every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's part of being a business owner.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that then. So you obviously have gone on this journey of, here's my career path and progression. And in some ways it still feels like you're in the trenches every day, but on the other side, you have to hire people now. Yep. And lead and manage people. So from what you've seen, what are some of the things that you've seen as a business owner that are typically what you look for in high performing employees? Yep. And we'll start there.
Yeah. So when I came on board with Bulk Loads in 2011, again, Matt, my partner, he's kind of the technical piece, but then when I came on, I was more of the sales and marketing piece. But when we started, I said, hey, I'm going to give this everything I got. So when we first started, it was just myself and the house we were living in. There was we had two rooms in the basement, and one of those I turned to my office, and every day I would go in there at 7 a.m., shut the door. And I said to myself, I'm going to knock out 100 phone calls a day and call different shippers, brokers, and carriers and let them know about what we're doing. And, man, every day I mean, it was one summer. I remember, like, for 3 months straight, just every day, just doing that and just having that discipline. Once we got some traction going, I realized that I needed somebody else. And actually, it was more important just to even answer the phone, because I'd be on the phone all day talking, and then all of a sudden we started getting phone calls in. So my first hire was actually an intern from the local college, and great. Gwen was her name. Great person. She came in, and we've hired some more along the way. What I found, we've hired different ones from different backgrounds. And I guess me being an ag boy, and this is just us, we typically have had more success hiring ag students from the university or from any background. And I think there's just a couple characteristics that we always look for in that number one, most of these, they're most are raised on farms. Mm-hmm. They can relate to a lot of our clients, and we deal with in the bulk, and on Bulk Loads, we deal a lot with the agricultural realm. So we're dealing with a lot of farmers, truckers, grain merchandisers, but a lot of people that come from the kind of that ag space. Yeah. So hiring people kind of with the same background tends to work very well. The hardworking aspect of it, most of them, they're here on time. I never have to worry about them not performing, not sitting back. I think most of them, they know that there's a job to get done. So those are the kind of the characteristics that we really look for. It's like, can you communicate and talk on the phone? well with people? Are people going to trust you when you talk to them? Because that's the one thing too. We do a lot of phone sales in here, and phone sales, it's totally different animal. You may be very good face to face in person with somebody, but if you can't talk on the phone and open the door, because you got one chance, and especially today with robocalls and people getting spam called and all that, it's making it more and more challenging. So we find people that really know how to talk on the phone.
I think what you said is key. On one, it sounds like you need highly responsible people, and then two, you need great communicators, and great communicators. Almost when you can have someone who can relate to your end user well, I think that's really crucial. But I've read so many studies in what I do that while there are certain skill sets that are more in demand, like software engineers or in the healthcare field, one of the highest that I keep seeing over and over is most highly coveted by organizations is great communicators. And if you can have a great communicator, one of the things I've seen is you can teach them the knowledge that you need. And if you can teach someone the knowledge that you need, well, then they can communicate that to the end user. And now you have a highly functional employee. I don't know if you've seen that as well.
No, absolutely. And I think when we've hired people with past experience, but honestly, the ones that we've had successful, not saying experience is great, but we've had ones that had no knowledge about really trucking. They're in agriculture, but not trucking, but we've been able to mold them and teach them exactly kind of the steps that we want them to take in our organization.
So with that, I asked that to some folks, even in sales calls, like if you had to choose someone who's got 10 years of experience, but you're not sure if they fit the culture, let's just say, of an organization, and you got someone who totally fits the culture, but they don't have experience, which do you choose typically?
Oh, I'd say fits the culture, no experience, hands down.
Cool. Very good. Well, almost done. Just a couple more questions for you. I appreciate your time. Jared, when you look at the transportation industry as a whole, I think oftentimes it gets a little bit of a stigma on difficulty finding talent. Sometimes, do you see that being in the industry? Do you see it difficult to find talent here? Do you see opportunity there in the future? What's your outlook when it comes to just talent in the industry moving forward?
Ooh, that's a big question. I think, I don't want to get philosophical. I think, there's talent out there. And I think there's great talent already in our industry. And I think it's just, it really comes matching the right people up in the right place. I think, people want to have purpose with what they do. And if you can show people that they're having purpose, like people want to make money and people got to provide for their families and expand, but people got to know that they're making a difference. And I think if you can do that, I think that's number one. And just, we spoke about this offline, but just someone that's going to be trustworthy. I think that's a big one. I think there's natural talent, and this coming from the sports realm, but I think talent can be created from people and bringing them up through the ranks. My father-in-law, he was an executive at Walmart for years, and man, he's told me so many things I've learned from a business standpoint. I've just listened and learned from him, and he's just got great stories. He was mentored by one of the greatest retailers in the world, Sam Walton. But he was saying, Sam Walton, his favorite thing to do was to bring some fresh out of college and give them just enough rope to hang on and watch them flourish, because he just knew that, if he could give them the tools, they could be high performers within the organization.
I love a lot of what you said there. Just to pinpoint one of the things, influencer I like to read and listen to, Craig Groeschel. He's pastor, and a leadership podcast host. He always says people need to be needed and they need to be known.
Yep.
I think when you can boil things down to that, again, I go back to what I do. I talk to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. A lot of reasons people want to go from one organization to the other. So many times it goes back to, I want to do something that matters.
Well, yeah, and I should have even said this. One thing that we drill in our culture here is having empathy for our customers, but more importantly, our carriers. I mean, we have, running a load board, we have shipping companies, freight brokerages, dispatchers, and carriers. But one thing, I think it's led to our success with bulk loads, and we also have a sister company, Smart Freight, where we do factoring. But we said one thing we drill in here is like, you have to have empathy and compassion for these drivers. These guys, a lot of times, are mistreated. They're not looked upon highly. These guys they get abused, they get taken advantage of in the marketplace. And if we can be a light for them, and if we can help them, and if we can make them money, we're going to win. Our company's going to win, but we got to show them that they can win. And again, I don't know if you follow Donald Miller at all or Story and Marketing, but they're the hero in this story. Bulk Loads isn't the hero. We're the guide that's going to get them there. And we got to put ourselves in that situation where like, hey, how can we, and we mean it with genuine. I mean, it's not something we just say. We believe it, that these guys are the heroes. And you said it earlier in the show, like, I mean, these guys are when this pandemic hit earlier this year, they're the ones out on the front line still delivering goods, man. They were the heroes of the time. I mean, people started getting worried where their food was going to come from when they went to the store and the shelves were empty, but these guys didn't stop. They were still moving the product, and they need to be known for that.
Absolutely. They do need to be the heroes, and removing ourselves from that is what will make us ultimately more successful, is by saying, hey, we can make you guys the hero you should be. We'll help you get there.
But I think it's drilled, and I'll end on that. I think when our employees see that they can have purpose by helping these guys and showing them the success that they can have using our service and helping them find loads and making more money and more connections, that's one of the most rewarding things you can have.
Jared, I love that conversation. I love the idea of putting purpose into the workplace and helping people achieve what they want to do in their life by serving a greater purpose within your organization. I think that's amazing. It's been an awesome conversation. Where can people go to learn more about you, about Bulk Loads, to get in touch with you? What would be the best place to
go? Well, like I'm on LinkedIn. I think one time I heard like some guy referred to himself as a LinkedIn Jedi. I camp out on LinkedIn a lot. I've made a lot of good connections there, especially when we started the business. Just getting finding those people. So look me up on LinkedIn, Jared R. Flinn. On LinkedIn. If you're interested, and I know your podcast goes out to all different mediums in the transportation, we focus just on the bulk commodity sector of trucking. So anything from grain, feeds, fertilizer, aggregates, industrial, those are the products that we move. It's a niche that we kind of have in the industry. So if you're a company out there and moving those products, or maybe want to look at the opportunities, we'd love for you to give us a chance. All you need to do is just go to our website. It's bulk, BULK, loads, LOADS.com, bulkloads.com.
All right. Jared Flinn, AKA the LinkedIn Jedi. Thank you for joining us. Have a good one.
Hey, thanks, Adrian.
If you haven't yet, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on LinkedIn, Adrian Chapman, and Cover 3 Consulting is our company page. Also check out our website, www.cov3consulting.com. Again, thanks for joining us, and we just simply want to remind you that you can change the world by putting people in a position where they can do the most good, and you do that by recruiting. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.